Hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to my first impressions of Ancestors Legacy. This is a title developed by Destructive Creations. You might remember them. Back in 2015, they made a game called Hatred, which was about a guy who went on a killing spree with a gun and shot up a bunch of civilians and cops. Yeah, it's kind of a turn of events here. They're now developing a strategy game rather than a twin-stick shooter, and quite a good one. So this game is basically set in medieval times. You play as several different factions. It's got a fully fledged single-player campaign, which is surprising for a $45 release, RTS. But it is developed by 1C, which I'd call them a double A rather than a triple A company. They've made some really cool RTS games in the past, like Men of War. A lot of people really like that series. It was a World War II RTS, if I recall correctly. But anyway, they created this little title, and it's actually quite a surprise, to be honest. It's basically a mix of Dawn of War and Total War, where you have a lot of troops on the screen, you know, a lot of movements, you know, capturing points, capturing buildings, whatever. But you also have the tactics and the army charging of Total War, where, you know, each set of units has their own ability where they can kind of like change stances or do something different to deflect against certain enemy times. Kind of like a rock, paper, scissors mechanic, but I feel like it's a little bit more involved tactically. Because there's some split-second reaction timing, you know, setting up just before the enemy comes into frame and tries to shoot at you or charge into you. There's flanking, where you can attack from behind and do a bunch of extra damage. And I think what's really cool is that the game actually features, you know, it's not just a bunch of skirmishes with some text in between missions, which I absolutely hate when, you know, developers, they say a single-player campaign, but it's just skirmish maps. No, there's actually a fully fledged campaign with scripted events here.
There are Godwin's villagers nearby. And there's your revenge, too.
Let's not get reckless, though. The enemy's bound to find our base sooner or later and attack it. Spears on me.
And I think what's really cool is that the voice acting is actually not half bad. It's not a, you know, grand epic story of arcs and characters, but it is nice windows dressing to get you in between missions, and, you know, it's a lot of fun to play, I'd say. Now, I am playing on hard, and the reason for that is that on medium and easy, the game is, well, I just don't think the game presents as much of a challenge. I do play a ton of RTS games, so maybe that's why I found it a little bit easy. So right now what I'm doing is I'm setting up some traps right here. I've set up a spike trap, which allows me to, you know, well, actually, it allows them to die if they run into it. It's capacity for how many people can fall in here. The game's really bloody, as you'd imagine from a, you know, developer that made Hatred. I'm gonna put a money trap over here. It's actually surprising how well they nailed the, like, you know, the grittiness of the medieval setting. There's some really cool art in between scenarios, you know, through the cutscenes, I should say. And I think the first campaign, there's 4 campaigns, I'm playing the Celtic one right now. There was one where I played as a bunch of Vikings, which was really cool, the Nordic campaign. But, like, that one was really cool because you just start out and there's, like, this big, bloody battle in the rain. It's really well detailed. I do say the graphics kind of let it down. Like, you can see here, some of the foliage right here. It's not great, and this is at max settings. It does run well, though. Alright, so currently we're setting up. We went through this village over here, and they just booed and hated us because, I don't know, well, I wasn't paying too much attention to it, but basically everyone hates you, and now you have to rally your forces, get some sleep for the night, but for now defend this little outpost that you have. So there is some minor base building in this game. I built these archery towers, as you can see, and of course these traps over here. I have my guys on the front line over here. I have my spearmen in a spear wall formation to increase defensiveness, because we are, in fact, defending. We're going to actually fear these spearmen over here to reduce their morale, break them, basically. There's a lot of stuff on the screen that can kind of confuse you, but honestly, I'd say it's presented fairly well, especially through the tutorial. The problem, of course, is going to be the tooltips. Like, when you hover over some of this stuff, you're like, what the hell does it do? Especially for units. But in time, you'll you know, understand a lot of it, like, you know, what units are weak to. You know, it says it right there. You can tell that's food, that's lumber, that's some kind of ore. That's housing for more units. Over here in this menu, down over here, you can click on the various building tasks and do stuff. So this is going to be for the unit you have selected. But over here, you can build units from this tab, but you have to have buildings out. And the way you build buildings, you select your building, you don't select peasants or anything like that, and you just have them auto-built like that. See that little green ghost right over there? So I can have an archery tower. It's auto-built. It's a little bit... It feels like it is taking a little bit of control away, but honestly, I think the game offers enough depth from the units themselves to make it truly interesting. So let's have these guys boost our allies, and let's do accurate shot, because there is friendly fire in this game. If your archers can easily shoot your own guys, I can have them shoot a little bit more accurately. You can upgrade your guys through battle experience. Like, you know, they just kill a lot of people more, and then they just level up. And you can increase some of their abilities. Honestly, it's a really interesting little game here. They got a lot of detail. And I do appreciate that a lot when they're just doing stuff like, you know, destroying buildings isn't just, you know, visual damage when there's fire. They have to channel a bar with, you know, enemies have to throw... Oh god, oh god. Sorry. One of the guys I have to protect this game was going to die. When you're attacking a building, you actually have to light it on fire with torches, and there's a little bar that goes up. And as it's going up, when it fills up, then the building will be caught on fire, and then you have to put it out. And you can build something like a well over here. Yeah, here we go. Over here. Your villagers are kind of automated, so they'll help out and like try to put out fires or attack. Oh geez, Wilbur's badly wounded. There's also several retreat buttons that I'm using here. If you tap once, they'll kind of fall back, and if you tap twice, they'll go all the way back to the base. I kind of like to do that because it's a sense of urgency. Let's get this guy back in the battlefield. We're actually losing troops here, so... Yeah, again, it's the hardest difficulty. And I'd say it's a pretty good challenge so far. I did play StarCraft 2 at Brutal difficulty, and I believe I beat about every mission in the game on Brutal, so... This is getting closer to really up my alley. The thing is that I'd say StarCraft 2 is a lot more different. This game does have its linear levels like StarCraft 2 did, but what was cool about StarCraft 2 is that while you were like kind of pushing towards objectives in the game, you were also defending your base, and you had to, you know, do a very, you know, hit and run kind of strategy for most of the levels. Some levels were like, you know, escorting or defending certain points specifically, like no actually going out and attacking, unless it was maybe for a bonus objective, but there is a sense of linearity in this game, like in the beginning when I was just going through these towns over here. But now that I'm actually defending the space, I'm actually having a little bit more fun, and the next level has you kind of going out and splitting out and fighting, you know, you're trying to go to different bases and trying to defeat the enemy. And there's secondary objectives too. And you can do other things like, you know, go around the map and collect food or wood or armor to make the game a little bit easier, or a little bit less tedious. I think the biggest problem I have right now is that the AI isn't super aggressive. Like, you're having, you know, waves of enemies come out against the enemy team, and they're not sending a whole bunch to, like, stop you once you failed. So right here, I can upgrade my troops' armor over here. These are just slingers, so I'm not too concerned about them. They also have a chains functionality. You can also have your units rest up. They can do this anywhere. It's called a healing camp, so they can just set up like this. They have a little animation. It's pretty cool. When you zoom in, you can also initiate this battle cam, which is nice. You can even pan around. Yeah, the models are actually not too bad. It's just some of the other graphics, like the ground, is just it just needs a little bit of work. There's a lot of blur going on. Aw, it's so cute. Sleeping. Cute little killer.
Weapon ready.
But, it is pretty nice. You can also retreat to your base and not only heal, but you can also replenish your troops. So you might notice these green dots right here. So that's your total squad count up to your maximum. So, you know, a full green bar means you have all of your little members in your squad. or your unit. But when you have less, you know, some troops have died. You can actually replenish them at the base. And healing heals just what squad you have left. Oh, okay, here we go. Where are they attacking, my dude? I think the game might be glitched out. Oh no, they're behind us. What the hell? How'd they get behind us? So that's the bar I was telling you about. Once that fills up, the town hall will start to burn. Now you can capture town halls in this game, or bases. You have to set them on fire, basically. And then once there's no enemy units in the area, you capture them. So you gotta eliminate everything. So it's a battle of attrition. You can, of course, lure armies away and then, you know, kind of rush in and try to quick cap towns, which is pretty cool. Oh boy, I'm on the back line and I'm about to get charged. So let's move up. Let's move up. Let's move up. Okay, here we go. We can level up our archers. Let's get them piercing to kill these guys, because we have quite a few incoming. Okay, we're gonna have these guys form up over here. Give them a defensive buff. We're gonna change their stance. Alright, let's move this guy up. The other thing you can do at night is enable torches, which give you a big line of sight, like these guys are doing. The problem is that it makes you vulnerable. And that's one of the other big things about this game that I really enjoy. Again, another little touch that adds so much to the game is that this game has day and night cycles. So at night, visibility is reduced, and you can... And it's not just that, you can enable those torches, like I said, and it has this really nice lighting effect. But visibility is also reduced. There's also weather effects like rain, so when it's raining, archers are going to have trouble shooting at enemies. It definitely adds for some cool mechanics. And I did recall when playing the Viking campaign, there was one really cool moment where I was trying to cross a bridge and the enemy had this amazing defense, so I had to switch up my tactics where I had to use archers in a specific way behind me. I had to actually get the archers because melee was just dying. I needed to combine them with archers. So you had archers across the bridge over here, and then you had this melee army creating a choke point, and they were in like this defensive stance. So they were staying alive, but they weren't doing damage. But the archers, the big squad of archers behind them, were just killing my guys. So I could see a ton of opportunity in the multiplayer campaign, or sorry, the multiplayer skirmishes for interesting tactics like that when you're taking control of various spots on the map. And it's not just limited to infantry too. You have cavalry, you have siege vehicles, you know, catapults. There is a lot of variety here. And, you know, it's quite fun. Let's try to get all this. So here we go, we're capturing the points. So once we've burned it to the ground, peasants are in fear. Very, very good. Very medieval. Alright, capture the village. So we could also have them do things like mine ore, food. So we're going to just do that. Also, an alarm function similar to Age of Empires where you can have them all kind of like defend the village, fight back. They're not super useful though. Neither are the buildings, like these archer towers. They're not super useful. Everything's going to come down to how good you are at managing your troops and your tactics. Again, there is base building, but it's not heavily emphasized, and I think a lot of people might be upset with that. But I am having a good amount of fun. The game does need tooltips. It needs some better graphics. But it has a very, very good options menu, and it's very well optimized. You know, you get a lot of audio options here, volume, gameplay, interface, you know, like all this other stuff, like Gamepad Legend. You can actually use a controller with this game, which is really cool. I'd recommend it if you're playing on the easier difficulties, if you want a good casual time. You know, you got subtitles, video controls, plenty of that over here. The game currently has some kind of weird resolution bug, and yes, I've tested this at 1080p. I've gotten it to work. It's just that it's currently locked in this weird resolution thing. It looks a little bit better when you hit it to 1080p, obviously, but It's just annoying. Anyway, so you got VSync, you got quality settings, a lot of these. Post-processing effects. Yeah, the game runs well, it just doesn't look super awesome, but, you know, some of the effects are nice, like fire effect is not too bad. Lighting, in fact, in some areas actually looks quite nice.
Move your arses.
Or how it's a little bit more dynamic than in most strategy games.
This way.
I'm going to switch it up to a different campaign, because I think the game might be stuck right now. I'm not sure. There might be an enemy just kind of stuck somewhere. Alright, so for the final bit of this video, I'm going to load the first chapter of the game off the course and show you how cinematic and really cool this game can be. Some of the cutscenes do jitter, though, so it's a little bit annoying.
793. A storm was approaching the shores of the Kingdom of Northumbria. A few months earlier, Althing, the Council of Vikings, made the decision to plunder its largest abbey, the famous Lindisfarne. One of the leaders of this expedition was Jarl Ulf Ironbeard, a stern but respected man among his people. However, it wasn't meant for all of the Northmen to reach Lindisfarne by the sea. A storm that hit the coast of Northumbria has scattered some of their ships miles away from their destination. Ulf's raiding party landed near a town called Bamborough. The Northmen saw it as an easy target to plunder. Little did they know that all of Northumbria was just coming out of a bloody civil war. Troops of a new King Ethelred were battling remnants of recently murdered King Osred's royal army. For this reason, heavy garrisons were scattered throughout the country, and one of them was stationed just outside Bamborough.
So we're Vikings, we just gotta kill stuff. Presentation, I'd say, is pretty high up there, to say the least. Again, the graphics do need work sometimes, but moments like this really, really impress me. Very well modeled, very well detailed, the rain effects look nice, it looks pre-rendered, so, or I guess rendered in-engine, because like when you switch to the gameplay, it doesn't look this good. It's kind of selective here, especially with all the reflections. Again, the game can look gorgeous at times, it's just it's a little bit here and there. But I really like it. 45 bucks. Maybe wait for a sale if you're not super keen on like a 6-hour single-player campaign. But if you want to try out multiplayer, and you can get into that, you like the gameplay, I'd say that's probably where the game's strong point's going to be. It's no StarCraft 2, I'll tell you that. It's no Dawn of War 1. But it tries. It's not trying to be some multiplayer first game. It's not trying to give you a crappy single player with some stupid skirmish modes with some text, you know, overlaid for the vague attempt at storytelling or, you know, narrative. It's actually trying to be something more compelling than that. And I respect the hell out of that, because we need more RTS games with single-player campaigns. There are so many games that are turning to multiplayer, and they work for it. But RTS, the problem with it is that they have such a steep learning curve per game that it's very difficult to get into it, much less the multiplayer competitive scene. StarCraft's a great example of this. So when you have a single-player campaign with a narrative that's interesting, that you can casually play, get into, understand the controls, and be motivated to finish, then you're like, hey, that was pretty good. I'm going to try to get into the multiplayer now. I really appreciate that, and I cannot wait to see what they do with this game in the future. It's a little bit short, I see so far, but it is pretty compelling. Anyway, guys, thank you very much for watching. I want to send a shout out to 1C and Destructive Creations for giving me review code. I'll see you guys next time. I'm out.